Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
What up, Badlanders? Are you ready to rock something new in 2026? Well, as always, we got you covered with the Rise Badlands Native Collection. Built from the rich tones and rugged terrain of the Dakotas, equal parts beautiful and brutal. Old roots, new vibe. Whether you got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office, Badlanders are worldwide. Different dirt, same tribe. By the way, your friends at Rise have a deal for you. Show up at GART rocking your native gear. Swing by our booth and get in to win a free Badlands Rise hoodie of your choice. And don't forget, every order throws fuel on the fire of the Made in USA parallel economy. So grab something now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
Virtual tickets for GART 11 in Nashville, Tennessee are now available. Grab them at a special early bird price between now and March 15. After that, the regular price of $40 kicks in. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/events to snag the lowest price for virtual tickets.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Hey, have you checked the Badlands shop out lately? You might be surprised by what you've been missing. From thoughtful gifts and unique finds, everyday household essentials and personal care must-haves, there is truly something for everyone at Badlands shop. But here's what makes it different. Every single purchase you make is so much more than just buying stuff. You are investing directly in the movement. You are empowering America First businesses, lifting up fellow Badlanders, and supporting the creators who are building this community with us. Thank you for being a part of this. Your support means everything. Head over now to badlandsmedia.tv/shop or click shop in the main menu at badlandsmedia.tv and discover your new favorite brands today. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop.
The money that you are gifted from the taxpayers.
Of being the leading defender of Israel.
No amount of censorship that can win the battle.
We start throwing dildos at Congress.
Paid propaganda.
There's nothing more to the Epstein files. Israel gets free schooling. American people demand, they deserve better.
The Podfather is back.
They're eating babies, Dan Bongino. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shipwreck Show. My name is Shipwreck, and I'm your hostess with the mostest. And I've got a guest tonight. Thanks for coming on. This is JT. I found him on Instagram. I did.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, JT. How's it going?
It's going well. You know, like you said, there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep up with all of it.
So now what is your content? Like, because I found you on Instagram, and I think I caught, it was your video about, I want to say, well, you did one about the war just like yesterday or this morning too. But what would you like? What is your content? Just for those who don't know who you are.
Well, so I go by JT follows JC. So I'm a JC being Jesus Christ. So I'm a Christ follower. But, I long wore the badge of like a conspiracy theorist on my sleeve, but I want to lean more toward truth, or I don't know if there's that much wiggle room between the two of them. But conspiracies kind of got a little retarded over the last couple of years. But yeah, I think I started off when I first started doing social media. I was one of these people who woke up big time in 2020. I thought we were heading toward the tribulation. I've since maybe revisited some of the things I thought about eschatology, but truth be told, it was, COVID, the 2020 election, all the things that woke me up. And it was really just like a realization they've lied to us about everything. And so my content's typically about. Obviously, it's biblically based, but everything else is really under scrutiny. And I like to just kind of find the codes in movies and comic books and music videos and things like that. And
Right.
I talk a lot about maybe Tartaria, the old world, those kind
Okay.
of more like ancient conspiracies. I like that kind of stuff.
The Tartaria stuff I just started kind of looking into a little bit. Like I'd heard about it, but I'd never really deep dove into it. That was the civilization before us that we don't talk about. That they deny exists, but is in like really old history books.
Yeah, it's like in maps, like behind me and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Hmm.
Yeah. And they just like didn't they destroy it? What did they do to it? Did they destroy it?
Well, I mean, that's probably a whole
That's a whole other
conversation in
story.
itself.
Okay.
But yeah, the Tartaria is on old maps. It was obviously a place. Now, modern historians would tell you that the Grand Tartary or the Tartars were like the Mongolian Empire, and so we've just rebranded them a different name. But I think the way that we're shown in like through history and culture, and you think even like think like Big and Ted's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they show
Okay.
Genghis Khan and he's presented like a very Asian looking man. And that would
Yeah.
make sense because it's Asia, but I mean, Asia is massive. It's not just a certain complexion of people. Genghis Khan is described as having red hair. So
Oh.
I think it's like a situation where who were the Tartars? I don't think we're really sure, but Tartaria is basically kind of a catch-all for here's this weird building in your town that you don't really believe the historical narrative about. So the Tartarians built it. But I
Okay.
think there's a little more nuance to it. But truth be told, the thing that goes together with Tartaria is the concept of the mud flood, where you
Oh,
see
and
a lot of the
the
buildings
giants.
are buried, floors of the buildings are buried, partial quasi basements and things like that. It looks like sometime around maybe the late 18th century, early 19th century, it looked like there might have been some kind of reset. And if you think about like how American history is told, of course it starts at 1776, but it's almost like the way we're taught in American schools. We have Columbus, then we have 1776, and we talk about the Civil War in the 1800s. But
We
after
don't
that,
really.
it's like our history is kind of like lots of shadows of
Yeah.
history, not really very tangible stuff. And if you read history about the 1800s, it sounds like a lot of lies. It
Everything
doesn't
sounds
actually
like a
make any
lot of lies.
sense.
Everything does. Like
Mhm.
I had read about the Titanic. I gotten into the Titanic during COVID because the Titanic had happened right around the height of typhoid fever, and a lot of people were calling me Typhoid Mary because I was an anti-masker at the time, and so they would be like, "Oh, you're typhoid." So then I was like, I got called it enough, so I went and actually looked up typhoid, and so typhoid happened, and then the Titanic would happen, but there was a bank run that also happened that caused the start of the Federal Reserve, and that all happened around the same time that typhoid was going on. And so I thought that was super interesting because then we had COVID going on, like this pandemic, and at the same time, like banks were having problems. A lot of banks were closing down, and there was a lot of uncertainty, like economically. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if we're gonna have a Titanic moment. But now we're into war, so we must have just skipped that. I don't know. But I thought it was really interesting how it all kind of lined up to the same thing as we were doing today. Does that include like somebody said in the comments, does Tartaria include like the flat earth stuff?
Well, there was one kind of 5-part like series kind of documentary that a lot of people in my community have watched. It's called The Lost History of Flat Earth.
Okay.
And it gets really into all it's about flat earth, obviously, because it's from the title, but
Yeah.
it's more about the idea that the whole realm we live on is kind of set up by these obviously past generations had built the place like an electrical grid, and the buildings, the water, the cymatic patterns in the rose windows and Gothic cathedrals, the vibrational frequencies with the bells are connected with the water, and the kind of like the geometric patterns and everything, the way things are built, was all connected based on the idea that there's the power of the ether in these old buildings could harness it.
Okay.
So
I did read something about that because I was also looking up the Crusaders, the Christian Crusaders at the time, and it wasn't the Crusaders though; it was another group, and they're still around. And blessed if I can remember what they
The
were now.
Templars?
Yes, Templars. Yes, the Knight of
Knights
Templars.
Templars,
Thank
yeah.
you. So the Knight of Templars, they I'd watched this whole video with the guy and his fish, and he's like, the Knight of Templars went to go protect the Christians. And that was like their cover though, because that's not why they were really there. What they were really there to do was to dig underneath all of these temples to try and find that exact technology left over from what he had called Tartaria at the same time, so that they could take control of it, because they knew that if the Jews or the Muslims got a hold of that technology, then they would use it for war and they would use it for domination. So they went in to try and find it first and take control of it. I don't know if they ever did, but they did find some of the artifacts, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that those stories about the Knights Templar. So I think what's really interesting when you do get into like, what are they called? The Old World or Tartaria.
Yeah.
The most interesting things are probably what's below us.
Yeah. That's
I'm
why
sure,
we
like,
stopped looking at the ocean and went to space instead.
Well, not only the ocean, but just the idea that, even if, I'm sure you've looked into the idea that we have all these underground military bases.
Yes.
But the truth be told, it's like, isn't it sort of weird that we just assume that our military, our governments tunneled under the whole earth and had set up all these very elaborate bases under there? So,
well, Hollywood did.
well,
They had
and-
all
and-
these connections with it, and they would travel all over Hollywood and California on these underground tunnels.
See, it's my belief that the tunnels were old.
Okay.
Now,
so
it's
you think,
very possible that they retrofitted them with modern conveniences in, like,
yeah, they had like a subway and everything down there. This lady gave a whole podcast about it. She used to work at this subway that was down there, and she's like, this is where all the elites go. This is how they travel so fast.
Well,
because they do it all under the city.
There's even, I want to say that there's an old, I think it's like LA Times article about the underground parts of it. I think it even talks about reptilian beings under there. Really, I mean, this is an actual news article. There's ancient mythologies of this, but I think when you start to research kind of our history, that's very fraudulent. It's like the idea that there's underground sections of every major city in the United States. And then when you get like the normie tale about them, they were used for bootleggers during Prohibition.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that might not
we
be
have
a
them under
complete
our
lie.
city. Well, we do have them under our city, and that's the whole story of the city. Am I cutting out? There we go. My internet's been kind of wonky. So the city that I used to live in is a hub between Denver, Colorado, and then Chicago, Illinois. And so there's a tunnel that runs from Denver, Colorado, all the way to Chicago, Illinois, and it comes through this city. And the city was a big port. And this is what the story is that they ran moonshine, and like all the gangsters and stuff, they would come through on this tunnel. But you're saying it goes back even further than that.
I mean, I'm just saying, based on like the way the story is told, it's kind of like, well, did the bootleggers create the tunnels?
Right.
The tunnels were already there, because obviously you can ship all kinds of contraband using secret tunnels. But the point is, they weren't digging under the cities to create the tunnels. The tunnels were already there. So that's a lot of the stuff I like to talk about, is the fact that, like a city like Chicago, if you look up historically, in 1840, there was probably only like 4,500 people that lived in Chicago.
Okay.
And then by the time you see the earliest pictures of it, it's completely built out like it's a full city. So
that's because the original city burned down, didn't it?
Well, yeah, supposedly. Was it
yes.
Molly the cow kicked over?
Yes, the whole story is such bullcrap. I didn't believe it in elementary school either, and I had to do a whole report on it. I'm like, none of this makes any sense. And they're like, it's all made of wood. I'm like, no,
they weren't.
None
but
of this makes
the thing
any
is, when they show historical pictures of it, it looks very reminiscent of pictures from like World War I or World War II. That cities were completely bombed out, because obviously brick and stone does not melt with regular fire, not some kerosene lamp getting kicked over.
Right, by a cow.
What's a cow doing in the middle of the city anyways? Like, how could a cow kicking over a lamp burn down a whole city?
And it was like with like this lady, she was ostracized for the whole thing too. Which it was like the owners of the cow's wife. It reminds me of like Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary was a scapegoat for typhoid too, because she didn't actually have typhoid. You really want your mind blown on that, just so you know. I don't know if that matters.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like, so we're told often about the Great Fire of Chicago,
Hmm.
but you look up every major city in the United States and type in, do a web search, type in any major city in the United States and put Great Fire in, and sure enough, there'll be at least one, more likely two or three.
So then why was Chicago why are we taught about Chicago so much then? You ever
I
think
mean,
of that?
again,
I think about that a lot.
I'm not exactly sure why, but I mean, it's the same thing with like the narrative of San Francisco. San Francisco, the historical story is that before 1849, there was only 1,000 people in San Francisco in 1848. I want to say that there was 6 major fires in San Francisco, and
Okay.
also like 2 or 3 major earthquakes within like 30 years. But every time you see a picture of San Francisco, it's completely built out. There's not any construction happening. Like there's a really famous picture. I want to say it's like 1873, and it's a panoramic shot of the city, and it's brick buildings, stone cathedrals, big like kind of Roman basilicas, kind of like the courthouses. It's completely built out, and there's not one piece of scaffolding. There's nobody working. There's nobody even in the streets. It's very easy. It's very eerie. So it's kind of like that. People, who research Tartaria or the old world, we've started to make the connection that when they say these cities were founded, they were found.
So you think that they were there before?
I think that America is a lot older than they tell us it was.
I could roll with that.
Well, there's
roll with that.
see, the thing is, and you can kind of back this up a little bit with the fact that San Francisco wasn't supposedly even discovered by the Spanish until 1776, but there's old maps from the 1500s where it appears exactly where it's at, and it actually says San Francisco or S. Francisco. Now, Chicago, same thing. In the 1500s, there's a place called Shalaga on old maps, like right where Chicago's at.
But why would they lie about that though? Like
Why would they lie about anything?
Why? I know, but that's what I get hung up. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because after all this, like I'm open to anything. You want to talk to me about flat Earth? We can do a whole show. I'm not judging anybody. But my question is, and I had the same question about like flat Earth, and the answer that I got for flat Earth, and the reason that they rewrote history for flat Earth and made it a globe was to remove the biblical element from it, because the flat Earth idea comes from the Bible, and the firmament comes from the Bible. He created Earth and the Bible, as a whatever. And so they're like, well, they did it to start removing God from your ideology of how you were created and start convincing you were brought up by monkeys, which I never believed either. I still don't. I had to explain this to my middle kid too, because they learned about evolution. He's like, well, they said they came from monkeys. And he's like, and I asked her, he's like, well, then who created the monkeys? And then he's like, my teacher didn't know what to say. Like, well, exactly. I mean, like, and why do we still have monkeys then? Why haven't all monkeys then evolved?
Why did some organisms decide to remain a mosquito?
Right. Why did fish remain a fish?
It evolved into us, but they said, let's stay here. This is fine.
No, we get into dinosaurs too. Like, why didn't they say dinosaurs stem from like birds? A lot of people do. Well, then why didn't all the birds become dinosaurs? We still got some ostriches. I'm convinced.
Well, we're told, I think the science tells us that dinosaurs devolved into chickens and small birds. So, I mean, it's really kind of,
but I don't know.
Survival of the fittest is anything, and natural selection is a thing. Why would an apex predator ever evolve into something that gets eaten
smaller
a lot?
Right. Yeah. See, none of that makes sense. Like, you're going to get me to believe Noah and his ark before you get me to believe that.
Well, so to go to your question though, so why would they lie about the idea that there was these old cities already here? Well, for one, if you do learn a little bit about our history, at least the ones where our supposed history is, the robber barons are credited with like everything that we have today.
Who's that?
The robber barons. Like, so you'd say like the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers,
the families,
JP Morgans, the Thomas Edisons.
Got it.
Those kind of people.
Yep.
The Andrew Carnegies, they're credited with doing everything. So you have this industrial revolution in the 1800s. And these are the people who, quote unquote, built America.
Correct.
They had a History Channel show about that.
Correct.
So, but this new economy that we still operate on is based on petrol, based on oil. So just
Okay.
imagine for 1 second that there was a alternative energy source that might have been free. Because that's obviously one of the conspiracy theories is that, well, how did they build any of this stuff before power tools, before automation, before excavating equipment? How did they build all the stuff they did?
As
Well,
slaves
they
who
likely
ate
had some
bread.
kind of a technology. So imagine if that
Yeah.
technology was free and renewable, and then this new economy runs on this quote unquote finite. They want to say it's like it's a limited resource of oil that is monetized in every which way. Like when you think about all the different products that come from petroleum now,
Mhm.
like things that we probably even we're wearing right now, and all the pharmaceuticals, all this stuff, it's all built on this idea. So Rockefeller basically creates the modern school system, and then we're taught this is the history. And of course, they wouldn't want you to know that you could potentially get free energy because they would lose all their power if they did.
Yeah, kind of like that guy that built that car that ran on water, and he's like, look, he was on Facebook. He's like, look at me, and then the next week, he died. I think he died. Actually, I was gonna say he disappeared, but I think he died. I think he just randomly had a heart attack, some kind of,
Right.
which they can do from a long distance away. I learned that a long time ago. Like they've had that
Absolutely.
kind of technology since before I was born. That they could, because they had whole congressional hearings about it. They could do direct energy weapons, and they could cause you to die from like blocks away. That's
Absolutely.
nuts.
So you think about like just if you believe history, sometime around the 1860s, they invented the car.
Yep.
And then by the 1960s, they went to the moon.
And they
all
called the
time
White
before
House
human
from the
history-
moon.
All the time before
Yeah.
human history, man was just putzing along. But the way that technology has advanced, it's almost like they've re-released things that were not necessarily brand new inventions. Like people like Nikola Tesla have so many different patents that it's really unlikely that one person came up with all that stuff. It's more like somebody
Didn't him and
discovered.
Thomas Edison get into it too? Like, wasn't he was an apprentice for Thomas Edison, wasn't he? Or
Right,
didn't they work
correct. Well, that's what we're
together?
told. Yeah, historically.
Yeah. And then they had a falling out, and then because Nikola Tesla wanted the energy to be free. He didn't want to patent anything. So he wanted it to be free for everybody. But Edison, who was in cohorts with the government and was like, they wanted to charge for it. And that's why they did what they did. And then they discredited Nikola Tesla, and he ended up dying like on the
dying
street alone.
penniless
Yeah.
and crazy.
Yeah, with pigeons, if I
Well, if
remember
you think
right.
about it, it's funny if when you talk about electricity, that kind of gets back into the old world stuff. Because if you've ever researched like the world fairs,
Yep.
I mean, if you really look up the timeline of electricity, it's crazy to think that they basically invented electricity in like I think the 1880s, and then by 1893, Chicago, like you mentioned, Chicago, they built that. Was it the Columbia Exhibition in 1893? And they called it the White City, and it's this Greco-Roman. Just I want to say it's like 200 buildings. Just amazing. I mean, when you see pictures of it, if you've never seen it, you cannot believe that was actually Chicago. But not only that, they lit it all up. It was all
with their newly found electricity.
Brand new electricity. And if you think about the logistics of wiring all the buildings, and this was before they had like light bulb factories that they could mass produce.
Right.
These things would have at least partially needed to be made by hand. And who did all that work? And they did this, like they built this World Fair in like 2 years. Supposedly.
So you think that we've had that technology, because a lot of people think that about AI today, right? That this tech, and I know for a fact that AI has existed long before then we got our own little chat GPT, right?
Oh yeah.
Because we know. So you think like this goes all the way back. So what's interesting about going back to like Nikola Tesla, you know the story about Nikola Tesla and Trump, right? Like where are you at on time travel? Just curious.
No, I mean I've heard a little bit about that. I mean it's weird enough, like those stories about what the Adventures of Baron Trump, the Werner von Braun book about how this man named Elon's going to go to Mars. I'm going to say that wasn't even the Epstein files that Jeffrey Epstein was looking into time travel.
Yeah. So, well, with the Trump stuff, there's that. There's the Marvelous Adventure stuff. But Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, was like a physicist or some big deal. Went to some big college, right? But he was the one that actually cleaned out Nikola Tesla's apartment and was tasked with the job of going through all of his work to see what after he died, to see what he had and what the government could use. And so he went and he got everything and he went through it and he gave it all to the government. But there was a book that was missing from a series. And he said he didn't know where it was and he doesn't know why it's missing. But a lot of people think that that book holds the codes for time travel and that he kept that. And it has been in the Trump family kind of ever since. That's where a lot of that conspiracy, it's not even really a conspiracy. Like it's a documented, like they had congressional hearings about it. It's not really a conspiracy. This actually happened, but they think that, and now we got like Elon involved and you talked about, yes, in the Epstein files and the time travel, like, so a lot of people think that he used that and built a time machine. And that's why things from like 2019 on are so messed up, because it is messed up, not just politically, but I feel like our time is going by a lot faster. And I feel like we're jumping timelines.
Well,
we have so many Mandela effects.
Yeah, the Mandela effect. So what I think is really interesting about that, because I told you I like to maybe kind of see what's in the movies, because I knew they reveal a lot of stuff through that revelation of the method.
Yep.
If you think about the movie Endgame, the Avengers movie.
Yes, I've watched that. Oh, with Doctor Strange?
Yeah, so you have Infinity War. So Infinity War happens, Thanos comes and he wins. And so I always like to point out the fact that Thanos is like this God character. He's like this inversion where when he first shows up, he's saying, I am. He's got this guy who's coming out and he's like evangelizing, saying, even in death, you can be children of Thanos. So his grand goal is to snap his fingers and make half the universe disappear. It's almost like a twisted view of the rapture. I mean, his ship is called the Sanctuary.
Yeah, that's wild. I looked at it like that.
Yeah, so the interesting part about how that goes too, of course, at the end of that movie, they fight under a dome, right? That's where the final battle is.
Yep, with Iron Man and all them, yeah.
Yeah, so they're under this dome. And then you even have they ask him, like, so what happens when you do this? Like, what are you going to do? And he says he's going to go rest and look upon it, like see the sunrise on a grateful universe.
On the seventh day. Oh my God. Okay.
Well, but it's even crazier than that, because the next movie starts Endgame.
Yes.
And his daughter Nebula says, I know where he's going to be. He's going to be in the garden.
Oh my God. The same.
Like the garden. Like
the garden.
Like, is there any garden that would be called the garden but Eden? So it's
garden,
like, it's like the God character is going to wipe out half of humanity, and then he's going to rest in a garden.
In the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. So then, but what's interesting, so they formulate some kind of kooky time travel plot, which I remember when I watched it at the time, I thought, well, that's kind of lame. They couldn't have thought of anything else, like going back in time. But what I found really interesting, especially if I've done all this other research, is the idea that they were going to do that through the quantum realm. So where today are they messing around with the quantum realm? CERN.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're smashing these particles together.
Yeah.
And that's where like the Mandela effect plot comes from, is like the idea that that's one of the conspiracies, is that when they fire up the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, this is when the funky stuff started happening. And so I think it's interesting because even in that movie, they tried to explain time travel. They tried to differentiate what real time travel is compared to like a movie like The Terminator or like Back to the Future.
Okay.
Because they were trying to say that, like, if one of us went back in time and did something, like my consciousness would still be the same. Like, so you could have changed everything behind me, but like if everything changed, I would still remember things like I remembered it because I would still be in the present.
Right.
And I was like, that to me is explaining exactly what the Mandela effect feels like, is because
like everything around me changed. Like,
But I haven't changed.
But I haven't. That's exactly how it feels. That's exactly how I feel this week. That is exactly how I feel this week. Because I am like, what happened? What happened? We were all anti-war not a month ago. Like we were all, and it just changed. And nobody is like everybody's and some of that's like some of that is bots and paid for propaganda. Some of that is, but some of it's like some of these people I have followed for years, and we agreed on the same. And now all of a sudden they're like Iran bad, and I'm like, well, since when? That's it's weird that you brought up the Avengers too, because I always likened this to Doctor Strange. He's one of my more favorite characters in the realm of make believe. Okay. I like Doctor Strange. And in that end part where Thanos wins and he snaps his fingers, before that happens, like Doctor Strange is going through every single scenario. Do you remember that part?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, this is the only scenario. It's like one in a jabillion scenarios that we all don't die from this, or don't get a chance to come back. And that's when Iron Man has to die in order for the rest of them to live or something. And I always thought that was like Project Looking Glass. Like they can look through all these different scenarios and find the one that they want to fit the best and then do things in order to make that scenario happen. But then you have to get into the conversation of free will. Because even though like God knows everything, he's all knowing, right? He knows everything, but we still got free will. So we still can go and make our dumb mistakes. And he knows we're going to do it, but it's free will. We have to go do it anyway. So I don't know how that, I don't know. I just feel like everything is like we just went backwards. I feel like it's 2019 again, the end of 2019, and I'm back to starting this all over.
I feel it's like 2002 again.
Oh yeah, well you've been at this a lot. I
haven't really been doing this kind of stuff a lot longer, but I'm 47 years old, and
I'm 42,
and I cannot wrap my mind around this Groundhog Day of Muslims bad.
Yeah.
They're 2 weeks away from a nuke. We got to stop them again. We got to preemptively attack them to stop a war that we just started. I feel like that part of like, because obviously I'm on X more now. And yeah, I can't take the gaslighting. I mean, it feels like the Hasbro, the propaganda is just being pumped into your brains, and they're just gaslighting you every day saying, oh, this is what he always said. This is what Trump was always ran on. You're like, no, he did not. He actually rebuffed these guys like Obama and Joe Biden and Kamala for saying that they're going to get you into war with Iran if they have their way. And now they're full on. I saw a clip from Pete Hegseth on Sean Ryan's podcast saying he had to go to like rehab because he was a reformed neocon. And he was talking about how dumb it was to think that he could go in the Middle East and change it around, and like the hubris to do that. And here he is today saying the exact opposite. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that most of these people are just, they're whores. They'll say anything for money. I think that's most likely the case. Is
you don't think they're like a whole
prostitutes.
different consciousness at this point? Like, I think that's how I feel, because they say it with such conviction. And I'm like, now, if we didn't have the internet, this could still work. Honestly, if we like 9/11, could you imagine if we'd had X when 9/11 happened?
No,
these people would have had it debunked in 24 hours. They'd have been like, since when does jet fuel melt steel beams, right? Could you imagine how much shit we went through from 9/11 till now without the internet, and how much we could have had this figured out? So it's always kind of curious to me why they allowed us to have this. Why didn't we just keep going with what we had? Do you know what I mean? I wonder about that an awful lot. And that goes back to Trump and the time travel stuff. Like, why are we allowed to have this technology where you and I can come on here and tell all these people that, hey, what you're seeing is bullcrap, and here are all the reasons why. And we have video proof of it and posts. Like the internet, nothing on the internet ever goes away. I can prove you wrong quickly. Why were we allowed access to debunk them so quickly and viciously? Because they are viciously and ferociously. Why do you think they let us
I think
do
that there's one main reason is because they can easily also indoctrinate people at the same time.
So
I mean,
they use
sometimes
it.
I
They
try not
figure
to like be so focused in my own echo chamber to think that everybody's like us, who thinks
Yeah.
just like
No.
we do, because there's so many people that are still asleep that they go back to put a Ukraine flag in their bio, or then they go to an Israel flag. So it still works on a lot of people, and maybe it works on the people that got the money still, the boomers.
Yeah.
This is stuff is very convincing to them still. Um,
Yeah, they're
but
on
yeah, that's been
Facebook.
the question we've been asking recently about that, because I was not really fully awake until 2020. I was trying not to be awake, like probably like most people. Like when your
Yeah.
life is going well, you're like, well, I don't need to know that they're all worshiping the devil.
I
Like
had
I
no
don't want to
idea.
know that. I don't care. I'm just
Right.
trying to go about my business. I'm trying to make
Right.
it to the weekend, trying to make it to vacation. So when the world shifts on a dime in 2020, then we're like, oh wow, we need to start paying attention to this. And so once you start paying attention, you're like, the propaganda is actually not very good. They don't seem like they're very
No.
good at psyops because we can point them out right away. I think part of that could be that it seemed like they were operating on a longer timeline at some point, like they thought they had more time. And it
That's what
feels
somebody
like
else
things have
said.
accelerated. But when you think about the idea that they want to have some kind of digital currency, they want some surveillance system, they need the internet in place to do a lot of things they want to do. So it's kind of a necessary evil for them. But I think that what they've done to try to a stopgap against this is they flood the system with so much crap. And as I said, conspiracies get real dumb because then some people think everything is fake, like
Mhm.
nothing is real. And then those kind of people are kind of black pilled in, they're kind of disillusioned with everything. So, it's kind of like the fine line of trying to like see what's fake and see what the Hegelian dialect is like, here's the problem. We're getting the reaction we want, and then we got the solution picked out. I think that's kind of like the battle. And I think, truth be told, I believe this is obviously a lot of it's spiritual, is the fact that like major conspiracies like could not be coordinated by men who have different interests without some kind of a coordinated evil, like in spiritual places, like heavenly places, kind of
Well, they
controlling
said
this.
you saw what that commander had sent out to his troops. Did you see that on
Oh
X?
yeah, we talked about it on a podcast today.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, I don't know. I'll pull it up, and I'm not gonna. So basically, a commander had sent out to his troops that Jesus, and he had stated in this is the information he was giving them, was that Jesus had chosen Trump for this mission, and he was working through Trump or something very similar.
Yeah, he was anointed by
Very,
Jesus
yeah.
to start Armageddon.
And my hackles went up. Look, and I was raised Roman Catholic. I don't go to church. And I'm kind of coming back to my Christianity. I've always been a Christian, but I've never really talked about it. I've been a huge prayer. It's just never, but like since the Israel discussion has come up, and every time they would say stuff that I was like, no, I don't think that's true. Like my hackles would go up. It didn't sit right with me. And so we jumped back in full, both feet, like, just if nothing else to make Ben Shapiro mad.
Well,
And
it's like, I mean, it really
yeah.
is like a good versus evil type situation where,
Yeah.
like who are you aligned with? That's one of the things I like to do in my content is to show that one of the very first things I started to point out was like the stuff like what I just talked about with the Avengers, that these people have a belief. If you have billions of dollars going into this industry, it's used for a reason. Like the idea of like Operation Mockingbird. These people have a belief, and their belief is shown in their art, the art,
Yeah.
kind of like their craft.
Yeah.
So this is the idea of that kind of Kabbalistic magic, that they do serve a God, and they might say in God we trust, but they're not talking about the God of the Bible. They're talking about Lucifer.
Right.
They're talking about Baal. They're talking about a different God than we serve. And so that's what I'd like to show people who are kind of skeptical, kind of a lot of normies, would be like, you don't have to believe in the devil, but I'm going to show you that these people do. And this is why they do what they do.
Right.
So if you kind of know that there's a choice in this, there's the light side and there's the dark side. So, if you believe the Bible, you believe that if you're in Christ, then there is a guaranteed victory. But if you're outside of him, this place is dark, it's wicked. So I would like to show people that there is two sides to this. And the devil rules the gray area too.
Yeah, the fence sitters. I saw a video talk about that too. There was a guy sitting on a fence. Devil came along and said, "Which side you gonna pick?" The guy's like, "I don't know. I gotta think about it. Can I think about it?" And the devil's like, "Yeah, I'll come back." Then the devil comes back a little bit later, and he's like, "Okay, which side you gonna pick? My side or God's side?" And the guy's like, "You know what? I still don't know." Well, the devil then grabs him and starts hauling him away. And the guy's like, "What are you doing? I didn't pick." And the devil's like, "Well, I own the fence too. So let's
Right,
go."
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, it's not that you get necessarily pick. It's like you pick Jesus, or you picked against him.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
haven't
It's
chosen him, then you've chosen the other side.
right. And that was the moral of the story.
Hmm.
And I felt like this huge pull to jump back into that, when especially when, like, the Talmud
The
came out.
Talmud.
Yeah, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I dipped over into that, watched a bunch of videos, watched a bunch of documentaries. Like, they believe how am I a Christian Zionist? I can't align with people who believe this. I
Hmm.
can't, and, like, this is kind of my core. I may not have talked about it a lot, it may not have been, like, the core of my content, or, but I tried to live like Christ. I tried to live a good Christian life. I don't murder people. I probably swear too much, but but when I started reading that, like, I'm like, "That's gross." Like, we gotta speak out against this. What are we doing? And then when you find out, who brought in all the porn and who brought in all the demonic stuff that you see in the movies and the music and all. And it's like, and then the stories start coming out about the trafficking and the children and all the dark. And you're like, how can I not? How can I not pick this back up, like, with full, and start to educate myself a little bit better, the best that I can on it? I have to,
Yeah.
because if I
Well,
don't, like, I'm not, I can't, absolutely not. I'm not that person at all. So we jumped off the fence and I picked my side and away we went. Thank
well,
God.
yeah. Well, in the Bible, it says in Hosea 6:4, it talks about how my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So it's like Jesus told us that he's sending us amongst the wolves, so be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So I think our enemy here has taken advantage of the fact that a lot of us have grown up in Christian countries, and
Mhm.
we're kind of taught to assume the best with
Yeah.
people,
And look the
and,
other way.
and we can't. Well, it's like if
Mm.
when you're young and you haven't been exposed to all kinds of evil, you think the world is a much more innocent place. And I think a lot of us still have grown up in that way, thinking salute the flag, you know, pray to God, and like you're just trying to live a happy life and get along with people. Now your enemy is taking advantage of your naivete, like through that, in order to do things in the dark, do things that we don't want to know about. And I think that's the thing, is like we've averted our eyes from things for too long, and now we've been exposed to them. So it was funny. I literally was just talking about this on my podcast the other day, was about that. I think the one of the biggest psyops of all time is the things that happened in the late 1800s that led into what we call like the modern state of Israel. So you have like the Schofield Bible, and so all of church history kind of teaches this one way about how Israel rebelled, and then what Israel became, or true Israel, was the believers, was the church.
Right.
So this is what the historic church taught for a long, long time. And so, of course, if you grew up Catholic, that's what they still teach.
Yeah.
But I grew up in an
That's what I was taught.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
grew up in an evangelical church, and so they've taught us that no, you have to support the Jews. We have to support Israel because it's the Israel of the Bible. And so you have like people like Ted Cruz talking about, if you don't bless Israel, you'll be cursed.
Right.
Now, obviously, he's twisting scriptures, and I think that's exactly what they've done. So the psyop is the fact that we have looked at the nation of Israel, despite all their flaws and all their wickedness and all their clearly just different view of how the world should work. And we've said, well, this is somehow going to lead to the return of Jesus. So therefore, I don't know, we wrote them a blank check to do whatever. And to me, like I said, I think it's like the most diabolic. It's not stupid. I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like the devil is a very worthy adversary. He's very smart. So it makes sense to take advantage of well-meaning boomers to say, "Oh, well, we have to support Israel. Well, they're our greatest ally."
Mhm.
But like now, a lot of us again, how we started to notice and we started to read what they actually write about Christ
Right.
in the Talmud, and we're like, how can we support this? I mean, even it says in Corinthians, it says that we should not be yoked to unbelievers. So if we're supposedly a Christian nation, now it's debatable, but I mean, we're founded on Christian principles.
We were.
Then how are we going to yoke ourselves with what the Bible calls spirit of Antichrist? So then them trying to use like modern geopolitics and foreign policy dictated on the idea that not only do we got to support them, we have to bring about a third temple. We have to bring about the Battle of Armageddon. I mean, I encourage people that are in the chat and who are watching this, if you do believe the Bible, read it. You need to read it to know what's in it. You need to read it to know what's not in it. Because Jesus, when he got taken up into the wilderness and was tempted by Satan, Satan is quoting the scriptures to him. But of course, Jesus being the word, he knows how to say, that's actually not what that means. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's what you have, like what Micah Huckabee and Ted Cruz trying to quote scripture, and then they're twisting it around and they're framing it, and then they're trying to omit things that contradict their points. I mean, that's exactly what the devil did.
Yeah, it's wild that you brought that up. My son, my youngest, wanted to watch David. It's a cartoon, but it's the story of Jesus, and that part is in it where he spent all that time in the desert. And then you hear the devil like saying these scriptures back. Well, God says this, this, and this. And why isn't this? Make him, And so then I had to go look it up because, like, I don't remember learning about that in church. I don't remember learning about a lot of this in church. If we're going to be really honest, I got really bad. I watched The Chosen one random night. I just started watching it. My kids everybody was gone. They went to New Mexico to visit family, and I stayed here with the dog. And one random night, I just started watching. I got sucked in, and I got sucked in so much that I would watch it, and then I would look at it because I have a Bible. Then I would look it up and I would read through it to try and understand it better. And now I'm all in. Like, I'm here for this. I didn't know Mary had such a big part in everything. I didn't know how Sermon on the Mount. I knew about Sermon on the Mount, but I didn't know what it was about or how it came to fruition or who. I didn't know any of this. And so I'd read through all of it, and I learned that it was because I'd always learned that it was the Romans that killed Jesus. And they did, but they did at the behestment of the Pharisees. And in fact, the Romans did not want to kill Jesus and pushed back on it several times because they wanted to keep the peace, because they were like, this is going to cause a lot of disruption. We don't really want that because they got the tax money. So they wanted to keep the peace, but the Pharisees kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, they were like, fine. And they did. And there was a bunch of politics. They manipulated something for political gain. And it was the Pharisees that killed him. Like, you killed the whole reason we're Christians is because he died. Okay. And then rose again. But now you're telling me I'm supposed to align with the people who killed him to begin with. And I got so hung up on that. And that's why I think a lot of people get confused too, because how can Christian Zionism exist? Like Christian, how is that even? You can't. It absolutely can't. If you believe with your whole heart, you can't align with somebody who killed your Messiah. Like, that's probably not going to go
still deny
well.
him today. And still deny.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
they still deny him today. Yeah, they don't even believe in him. The whole reason you're a Christian is because you believe that he died and rose again. But
yeah,
you
and
don't.
that's why
They
his
don't
name
believe
is
in
used
him.
as a swear word in all the movies.
I'm trying not to do that. And
I think that what
used to do
people
that a lot.
don't even recognize about the Gospels too, and I might be somebody. I believe in something called Satan's little season, and that kind of ties it back into Tartaria. I believe a lot of these things were actually fulfilled back in the times of Jesus. Now, but what people don't really often talk about is, so John the Baptist comes before Jesus.
Right. Yes.
And when he encounters the Pharisees, he calls them a brood of vipers. And he said, who warned you about the wrath to come?
Yes.
So with that mindset, this is one of the first things he says about there's a wrath coming. So when Jesus is there, he's providing a salvation from this wrath that's coming. Now, historically, and this is the thing that really irritated me when I learned this later, was that they don't really tell us about 70 AD. They don't really tell us about the Romans destroying Jerusalem. So if you actually read the Gospels with that mindset of like, there is an apocalypse coming on Jerusalem.
Yes.
It's a very imminent thing. So Jesus is trying to save people. Obviously, he's offering eternal life. So it's more than just a salvation from this, but he is saving them from wrath that's actually coming. And so when you see like the dialogue back between Pontius Pilate and Jesus, like Pontius Pilate's starting to recognize there's something about this guy. Like, his wife says, I don't want to have nothing to do with this man. He like came to me in my dreams. Like, this is bad. You don't want this. So when Pontius Pilate gives the Jews the option to take Barabbas, who was a rebel and a murderer and a thief, take him or take Jesus. I'm going to spare one of them. Pontius Pilate says, you can pick. They pick Jesus to be crucified. Pontius Pilate says, I'm washing my hands. I don't want anything to do with this. And they say, put the blood on us. Put it on our children.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jesus is walking up to the cross, there's women wailing and mourning and they're crying. And Jesus looks right at them and says, don't weep for yourselves, or don't weep for me, weep for yourselves, weep for your children. So when Jesus tells the story on the Olivet Discourse about the end times, he's telling them of a story about when the army circled Jerusalem and they're going to burn it to the ground. He starts off this discourse by saying, you see that temple? There's not going to be one stone left upon another that will not be thrown down. So he tells them at the very end of that, he says, before this generation passes away, all these things will take place. Now, it's really interesting. A lot of people believe he said that in 30 AD. Well, 70 AD is 40 years from then. A biblical generation is 40 years. You think about like the story of the Exodus, 40 years in the wilderness. Those people who did not believe did not enter the promised land. They died out. So you have 40 years. 40 years later, the destruction of Jerusalem happens. And so it's funny to think about even like modern times, we have people like Bibi Netanyahu, and I'm going to say some other people in like the radical, like right wing in Israel. They talk about battling Rome again, and they call Rome America and Europe. So it's like they still have not got over that. But I mean, I think that's the interesting part about that is it through the Gospels or through the epistles, the Romans are getting saved. Lots of them are becoming Christian.
Yeah.
And then so later, God sends the Romans to destroy Jerusalem. It's not like the Romans just do it without God's providence, his sovereignty directing them. And I think that's the really interesting part about this is that it's said that Jerusalem was going to be made desolate. Well, that's why they're still trying to rebuild the temple today. They haven't sacrificed there for what we're told is 2,000 years. Like God rebuked them and he caused judgment on them because they crucified his son.
Right.
And so like, that's the whole thing. It's like, so the idea that Christians should prop them up back in that land when it's God who cast them out is heretical.
So where do we go from here then? I'm just like, because I think that's what we're struggling. Because a lot of people are trying to figure this out because I've read that they're trying to usher in Armageddon so that they can bring in the Antichrist, which is their Messiah, is my understanding. Kind of, I'm still trying to learn all of this, but like, where do we go from here with other than, I mean, obviously getting back in with your faith. If you've dropped off your faith or if you're a non-believer, it might be a good time to pick it up and just read through it. I mean, you don't even, because I'm not going to say I wasn't a believer. I do believe in God and I believed in Jesus Christ, but I didn't necessarily believe in the story of Jesus Christ. I feel like we had been lied about a lot of things. I feel like a lot of portions of the Bible are still missing, and all of that still kind of remains true, right? But now that I have like a better understanding of it, I'm a full on, and you can kind of see all this stuff going on right now. I am a full on believer, even though I don't fully understand. I'm a full on believer. Like I have faith. I'm a little black pilled in the political spectrum, but I got faith. Right?
That's totally understandable.
Yeah, I'm a little over the whole voting idea. But where do you think we go from here then? Like what do you see happening, say, in the next 10 or so years? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, I believe in something, like I said, I believe in something called Satan's little season. So I think the idea that what we're seeing now is them trying to manifest things from the book of Revelation, which I believe already took place.
Okay.
So they want us to believe that we're at this part of the end of the world. And I think that obviously makes sense. If you think about the way that this, what I called was this psyop on the church, was to make you believe that whatever happens there is related to Christ's return and the rapture. So, of course, the evangelicals say, I don't care about World War III because that's actually good for me, because this will lead to me being disappeared and not having to deal with the mess that's coming.
Okay.
But I mean, the idea that we accept that we're at the end of the world, so we accept all kinds of evil and wickedness. When I think that if you believe Christ is king, then he's given us authority in his name to go out and proclaim the everlasting kingdom here. And I think there's still an ability that we can, I know it's kind of, it sounds a little bit like I don't know, just some kind of empty mantra about like changing hearts and minds. But I mean, that's really what the gospel is about. It's like that we can't really win this physically. Like we can't win this monetarily because we know who has the money.
Right.
We have to win this literally through hearts and minds. And I think that's why like podcasts like this are important, to be able to just speak the truth. Because if you really think about it, like you're saying, all the things you learned recently about the agenda of these people and what they believe, like that's still pretty fresh for most of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most of us are still kind of going back into history and we're saying, okay, so if they lied about 2020, what about 2001?
Right. What about 9/11?
What about 9/11? But then you start to look back. It's like, what about JFK?
What about weapons of mass destruction? What about?
And then you start looking into World War II, and you're like, oh my gosh, like.
Did you hear? Have you heard? Listen. This might make some of your guys' butts pucker, but listen. On Instagram, okay, a bunch of kids who they do their thing. They took Hitler's speeches and ran it through an AI program to translate it and to put it back in his. Have you listened to those?
I've
I'm
watched
as
Europa.
Christian as he is.
I've watched Europa. I've watched those things, and I remember when I watched that. Is that probably 8 or 9 hours? I think.
I don't know. I didn't watch that.
Have you watched it all the way through? I would say if you watched
a long time. I didn't care that much.
I'm telling you, like that when you listen to that, and I think the thing that made me most sick about that was that a lot of people like Tucker Carlson are talking about like, did we win World War II?
Yeah.
Because the result doesn't seem like we actually won. And so that they all like the empty thing they always say back is like, hey, you'd be speaking German if we didn't do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, okay, so it's a linguistic thing. Like, so that's really the most important part. I mean, the idea that what we had, the result of it was that sovereign borders were eroded and all these places started to become the melting pots that they said it was supposed to be, even though we never signed up for that. And so our culture is just being decimated. And so it makes sense that you have this ethno-state in Israel that rules over us who have to take in all the immigrants and the refugees from the wars they create.
Right.
And so again, it's like it's divide and conquer. And I think it is. It's like that they could not compete with Rome head to head, but what they decided to do was in this next battle is infiltrate Rome, and that's how they battle us now. It's a war with an enemy within.
Yeah, because they got all kinds of little flying monkeys. Because it's informational. I mean, as much as it's spiritual, I feel like the war that we're in right now is informational too. And their flying monkeys are unbelievable, like unfreaking believable. I don't even know how to start a bot farm. I wish I could learn, and I would start one because then we could do
I'd have
something.
a lot more views on my videos.
Lord, I have just been drug this last week. Just drug. I had one tweet or a video go absolutely viral. It's like 4 million views, and it was the ball one. Last week we burned ball and we were all excited. Now this week we're like around bat. I don't understand. My God, like it's been.
You know, it's funny. So you were saying I made that video, and I was showing him. I made that analogy about like if you had a friend that you went out with and you got into a fight every time because of them, you eventually realize that person's not your friend, and that's what Israel is to us. And as you have Marco Rubio, you have Mike Johnson, you have Tom Cotton, all saying exactly what the truth was. Israel was going to attack Iran, so we had to do it first because if Israel attacked first, Iran was going to bomb our troops.
Right.
So they say the quiet part out loud. I mean, they're not even hiding it. So I'm trying to make that video, and every time I tried to make that video, I know this might sound conspiratorial, but every time I tried to make the video with my editing software, the features stopped working, or it said I was offline. I mean, it literally took me, like, I was done with the video and I was just putting like the final touches on it, and everything started to kind of crash on it. And of course, then I upload it, and I'm not saying like my videos always go viral, but I mean, I thought like this is pretty time sensitive. I've made it the day probably to make it, and it's way shadow banned.
Oh yeah, mine on TikTok is too today. In fact, to like bring you, we talk about conspiracy theories. So we've decided you were going to come on a couple days ago, week ago now. And so today was the day I have to get everything set up, and everything crashed this morning. The StreamYard that we normally use wasn't working. And then I couldn't get my ads that I needed to play downloaded so that I could put them together with my intro. I worked for like 4 hours on this, and to the point where I was ready to just call it. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this stupid show. Like, because this is such a, and it put me in a bad mood the rest of the day. And I couldn't get anything to work. None of my apps work, and my internet wasn't working. It kept crashing out earlier today. I'm like, this show tonight's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a freaking disaster if this doesn't all get straightened out. And then literally like an hour before my show started, everything started to line up, and I had to hustle to get everything uploaded the way that it's supposed to. Made sure I send you a new link because it was a different link that you had to come to. Like it was almost like, and I thought about that this morning. I'm like, it's either God is trying to stop me from doing this show, but that didn't make a lot of sense because a lot of your content is very pro God. Yay, God, So it's either that or there's something not God that is
right. It's somebody else's. It's somebody else's God.
Somebody else all up in this room. Like
my buddy was saying the exact same thing. So he was making a video about how the Iron Dome is basically fake. It's not actually a real thing.
No, it's not. I read about that.
Yeah. So he was making a video about that. And he was saying every time he was trying to make it, his app was glitching out. And eventually he just put it up there kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And it's like, so he doesn't use the same software as I do.
Jeez.
So that's weird. I mean, I think that's unusual. I mean, doesn't it make sense to know who all the technocrats are and what side they're on in this?
You know what's wild? The only thing I'm not getting hammered on is Facebook, though. Big old Zuck. Good job, Zuckerberg.
Facebook isn't unusual. So well, it's funny because I started making videos on TikTok originally.
Yeah, I did.
And
too.
TikTok was supposedly like the censorship one with China and all this stuff. And they're really worried about all the things that can go on TikTok. They'll ban you quick on TikTok still.
Yeah.
And then I went over to eventually when Instagram and Facebook started to open it to Reels, I got away with so much more than I ever got away with on TikTok when I was like, that's sort of weird. It's obviously like the idea that, Netanyahu comes out with all these influencers and he's saying, we need to buy TikTok. And so now TikTok is basically just like a shell of itself. It's
I don't do much on TikTok. Like I make my videos on TikTok because it's easier. But I just started a Facebook page like 2 months ago because I had another page, but you can't do any medical misinformation on Facebook. I had been kicked off Facebook in 2020, probably 3 or 4 times. Instagram, I was put on a blacklist on Instagram. And actually with Instagram, it wasn't until about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that I finally started to grow again. And so the app thing has been a long time coming, like fight with censorship as a whole, just everything. And TikTok and I'll just make a new account. But TikTok used to ban not just your account, but they would ban like your VPN in the beginning.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people I know, I've been banned once there. I had like 220,000 followers over there. I got banned. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Started a new account and it's going okay, but I don't care as much anymore. So it's kind of like I've diversified. But so when you come up in 2021 posting stuff, obviously like talking about vaccines or COVID, it's like the third rail. Like you do that, your account is going to get nuked quick.
Yep.
And so, but I think it's kind of an unusual time because I'm not sure what we can say and what we can't say. So I'm on YouTube and I make a Patreon cut that's uncensored because I'm not sure what I can get away with on YouTube. But then I go watch like Candace Owens or Joe Rogan, And if I knew I could say everything that's said on their podcast, then I wouldn't ever have to worry about making an uncensored version. I would just
it makes you question
be the podcast.
It makes you question like where they are and where they sit in the dynamic of all of this. Because Candace Owens and even like Tucker Carlson, because he would come out like against the COVID stuff. And I'm like, why can Tucker say it on YouTube,
like
but
Russell
I can't?
Brand. I remember Russell Brand back. He was really hard against it. And
so it kind of makes you wonder, like, do you actually have a seat at the table and you just are saying these things? I'm not saying that that's what's going on, but it does make you wonder, like, because if nobody's can't talk about it, but Candace Owens, millions and billions of followers can, like, why is that? And I don't know that we'll ever know. I figured
it's probably a situation where if they completely censored all of it, even like the big accounts, then it would really be like all the conspiracy theorists would be confirmation that they were all correct.
It'd be like,
so you can allow like a soft disclosure because nobody's going as hard as probably just a regular person would go because we don't have anything to lose. So they're probably playing it a little more safe, and they probably know where the guardrails are.
Yeah, and that could be it too.
And we don't know.
They don't tell. TikTok won't tell you at all.
Oh no, they'll ban you. You'll never get an answer why you're banned.
Community I don't even. I have my TikTok. It's on its way out though. I lost 6 appeals last week. I'm like, I can't even. I'm at 100 and something. It'll be like my 40th account because I just keep making them because it's easier for me to create videos on TikTok. Like I understand the software better. I tried on Instagram. It was too janky. So and maybe it's gotten better since I've tried, but
just use CapCut and then just post them everywhere.
I should do that. I should do that. I don't know. I think we're over our hour. I was only going to keep you an hour, but I think you're pretty spot on with a lot of this, about everything that's kind of going on. And I think you are 100% right that this is spiritual. So if you could leave everybody with something, let's say your entire social media was nuked, everything that you ever said completely wiped off the planet, and you had your last message to give to everybody can be done in the next 30 seconds, what would you tell people?
I would tell people, again, this is a spiritual battle. And if you believe in Jesus, like the victory is guaranteed. So I think that with all the turmoil in the world, they want us to be black-pilled. And I don't say that black-pilled, like you said, like with politics. I mean, there are certain things that we should put no faith into, right? Like, because it really is. It's like that God has promised us certain things, and certain things are not promised. So like you want to find out what God has promised you and cling to that. Because if you do believe that there's more than this, well, then they don't win in the end. All these people who seem like they're winning right now, they don't win. Like Jesus
That's
wins.
a nice thought to think about.
And so if we're in Christ, then we win by being with him. So I think that's the message I really want to leave people with, because I like to be able to laugh about some of the things. And, I like the gallows humor sometimes. I mean, it sort of is funny just how goofy everything is. But I mean, if you don't have a hope in something, well, it's really hard to laugh at this stuff. So I am upbeat about things for the most part. I mean, as we all do, we get a righteous anger for the things that are happening. But yeah, we shouldn't lose hope. I mean, Jesus said in this world we'd have tribulation, but be of good cheer because he's overcome the world. So I would just encourage people, in a world full of lies, you do have to find what's true. There is truth, because if there's no truth, then there is no lies. So there is truth, and I believe that's Jesus.
That's nice. Good job. I like that. Do you guys like that? Absolutely. Make sure you guys go follow JT on all the platforms. His LinkedIn is linked in the description of this live on Rumble. And what is your X handle?
It's just JT follows JC. If you look up JT follows JC, you can find me pretty much everywhere. But yeah, if you look up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the audio podcasts, TikTok, YouTube, or TikTok, Instagram. I go by Joe Telford on Facebook, as I told you. I didn't necessarily plan on giving my public name out, but it just so happened. But you can find me on there. So
perfect.
Yeah, if you like long stuff, check out YouTube and the audio. If you like short, punchy stuff, check out the socials.
Perfect. Exactly. So yeah, make sure you guys go follow JT everywhere. And I love your faces. JT, thank you so much for coming on. You guys have a great rest of your night. Keep moving. Take it easy. Tell your mom I says hi, and watch out for deer. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.